This is Planning Your I Do from You Had Me at I Do. For over a quarter century, You Had Me at I Do has been helping couples say, I do. We bring more than 400 weddings of real-world experience as an officiant and a DJ, and this podcast is packed with what you, as the bride and groom, need to know, what you're wondering about, and what's keeping you up at night. No judgment, no fluff, just real answers and ideas for real planning. Here's today's episode.
I want you to think back, if you can bear it, to the absolute worst group project you ever had to do in school.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Right, you know the exact feeling I'm talking about. It's like midnight on a Tuesday, the presentation is due in, 8 hours?
Yep.
And you are frantically color-coding PowerPoint slides while your so-called partner is just, nowhere to be found.
Just totally checked out.
Exactly. You get that creeping tension in your neck, the workloads are wildly unequal, and you just have that simmering resentment.
Yeah.
Because you realize you are carrying the entire weight of this grade.
Yeah, and someone else is just going to casually slap their name on the final product and smile at the teacher.
It's the worst.
It is a universally understood visceral trauma. We have all lived through that dynamic. It's that classic collision between the overfunctioner who just cannot let the project fail and the passive observer who is, perfectly comfortable letting someone else steer the ship.
So true. Now, I want you to take that exact same dynamic, right? That same late-night resentment. But imagine the stakes are exponentially higher.
Oh, way higher.
Imagine this particular group project is going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars. It is deeply, fundamentally, emotionally charged.
Yeah.
Your entire extended family is watching from the front row. And the person you were doing this massive, expensive project with is the person you've chosen to spend the rest of your life with.
Right. We are, of course, talking about planning a wedding.
We are.
It is the ultimate high-stakes group project. And what's just so staggering to me is how completely it blindsides otherwise highly functional couples.
Absolutely.
You take two people who are great at their jobs, they're great at paying rent on time, they're great at loving each other, and you drop them into the wedding planning machine, and suddenly they cannot communicate basic needs.
Which is exactly why today's deep dive is so crucial. We are looking at a topic based on a really phenomenal piece we published over at You Had Me at I Do. It's titled, When Your Partner Isn't Planning Like You.
Yeah, it's such an important topic.
And what makes this so fascinating is the sheer volume of experience behind it. We aren't looking at, theoretical advice from someone who threw one nice party last summer.
Right.
We were talking about our team's 26 years of professional experience. We have personally guided couples through more than 400 weddings.
And that kind of longevity in the wedding industry means, well, we've seen human behavior at its absolute best and its absolute worst.
Definitely.
We've mediated every fight, witnessed every meltdown, and most importantly, we've identified these recurring psychological patterns. We have nearly 3 decades of hard data on how couples operate under extreme pressure.
So the goal here is to really extract this road-tested system. We want to figure out how two very different human beings can plan a major life event without, accidentally burning their relationship to the ground in the process.
Yeah, which happens more than you'd think.
Oh, I'm sure. Because an important point right away is that the objective is not to magically turn your partner into an exact clone of you.
Exactly. You don't need them to care about everything you care about. The objective is to build a system that accommodates both of your natural operating styles.
Right. But to do that, we have to accurately diagnose what is going wrong in the first place, right?
Yes, and there's a specific dynamic that drives couples completely crazy. We call it solo planner syndrome.
Solo planner syndrome. Man, just hearing the phrase gives me a stress headache.
I know, right?
But it perfectly captures the reality for so many people. It's when one person in the relationship ends up carrying the entire mental, emotional, and logistical load of the event.
Yeah, they are the ones building those massive interconnected spreadsheets. They are organizing Pinterest boards by hyper-specific seasonal color palettes.
The midnight panic.
Exactly. They are lying awake at 2 a.m, their nervous system is completely fried, and they're haunted by a dozen unanswered emails from caterers and florists and distant relatives who just won't RSVP.
And meanwhile, you have to look at what the other partner's doing during all this. Usually it's the partner who, maybe a month after getting engaged, said something like, "Sure, babe, whatever you want is fine with me."
Right. And then they proceed to never open a single shared document.
Never. They enthusiastically show up for the fun stuff, though. Like, they will gladly eat 4 types of buttercream at the cake tasting.
Oh, always.
But the minute you need to sit down and compare insurance riders for the venue, they just become completely invisible.
Yeah.
But I have a hard time letting the disengaged partner off the hook here. Like, playing the voice of the frustrated listener who is currently drowning in seating charts isn't weaponized incompetence a real thing?
Well, sure, it exists.
Because it feels like we give a lot of grace to people who are just being lazy. Are they just taking advantage of the fact that they know their highly organized partner will eventually handle it?
It really feels that way when you're in the thick of it.
Yeah, because it forces one person to be the default manager of the entire relationship. And that is just a fast track to profound resentment.
You would completely think that, but the data from those 400 weddings points somewhere much more nuanced.
Really?
Yeah. We strongly push back against the idea that the disengaged partner is simply lazy or apathetic. Often they are just deeply, deeply intimidated by the sheer volume of details.
Okay, intimidated how?
Well, think about it. If you have never planned a massive event, if you don't even know what a charger plate is, opening up a spreadsheet with 400 micro tasks is completely paralyzing.
It's like walking into the cockpit of a commercial airliner and someone hands you a manual and says, just help me fly.
That is a perfect way to look at it. Yeah.
You don't even know what buttons will crash the plane, let alone how to be helpful.
Exactly. And another huge factor is that the disengaged partner mistakenly believes the solo planner has already made all the decisions in their head anyway.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they see their partner moving at lightning speed, so they assume their own input doesn't actually matter. Like, why start a fight over the menu if the solo planner clearly already has a vision?
Right. They don't want to get in the way.
But crucially, there's a beautiful but dangerous truth here. Sometimes the disengaged partner simply cares way more about the marriage than they do about the party.
Which sounds incredibly romantic on paper.
Hi.
Think, I love you, I am thrilled to marry you, and I genuinely could not care less if the napkins are eggshell or ivory. I just want to be your husband or wife.
But consider the fallout of that mindset. The
Yeah.
disconnect happens because the disengaged partner doesn't realize that to the solo planner. Opting out of the planning process feels like opting out of the relationship itself.
Wow. Yeah.
The solo planner's brain translates, I don't care about the napkins, directly into, I don't care about our shared future, and I am going to leave you to carry all our burdens alone.
That is a massive translation error.
It really is, and it breeds a very specific kind of silence.
Yeah, I was really struck by that one anecdote about the groom who, weeks before the wedding, had just gone completely quiet.
Oh, yes, that's a classic example.
He wasn't arguing, he wasn't resisting, he just stopped offering any opinions at all.
Yeah, and when we finally sat him down and got to the bottom of it, he revealed that he wasn't trying to check out of the relationship.
Right.
But every single time he had made a suggestion earlier in the process, maybe suggesting a certain song or a type of food, his fiancée had immediately corrected him or vetoed it.
Because it didn't fit her cohesive vision.
Exactly. She wasn't being malicious at all. She just cared more about the aesthetic details and was moving at a much faster pace.
But the psychological result for him was learned helplessness.
Yep. He learned that participating only led to rejection. So it was safer for his ego and honestly for the peace of the household to just stop talking altogether.
So when a couple finds themselves stuck in this resentment trench, where one person feels abandoned and the other feels entirely marginalized, how do you actually break the cycle?
The turning point is naming the pattern, but doing it without assigning blame. It is all about shifting your language.
Okay, so what does that look like?
Well, you cannot walk into the kitchen and say, you never do anything for this wedding, you're leaving this all to me, you're being incredibly selfish.
Right, because that instantly triggers their fight or flight response.
Exactly. Their ego gets defensive and the conversation is over before it even begins.
Because an attack demands a defense. If I call you selfish, you are going to spend the next 10 minutes proving to me why you weren't selfish, instead of actually helping me with the caterer.
Spot on. But if you use I statements, if you say, hey, I feel like I'm carrying this alone, I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now, and I need your help to figure this out, you disarm that defensive reflex.
It transforms it from an accusation into an invitation.
Yes. You are asking your teammate for backup.
Which is brilliant for repairing the emotional breach. But you still have a massive logistical behemoth to manage. You still have a wedding to plan.
You do. The to-do list doesn't just vanish.
And I think one of the biggest dangers is that once you start planning, The wedding begins to colonize every corner of your life.
Oh, it takes over everything.
It dominates dinner conversations. It ruins the 15-minute car ride to the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
It creeps into Sunday mornings when you're just trying to relax. It turns your entire relationship into a series of status updates.
And when a shared adventure turns into an exhausting, unpaid second job, the romance dies very quickly.
Yeah, so how do we fix that?
The solution is a strict containment strategy. We call it the weekly planning date.
I look at this like implementing a quarantine zone.
A quarantine zone. I like that.
Yeah, like if you let a virus roam free, it infects everything it touches. But if you have a strict quarantine protocol, meaning wedding talk only happens in this specific room at this specific time, your partner's nervous system can actually relax for the other 167 hours of the week.
Exactly. They aren't living in constant fear of being ambushed.
You know that feeling when you come home from a terrible day at work, you're taking off your shoes, and before you can even take a breath, you're hit with, quick, we need to decide between the buffet or the plated dinner right now.
Yes, that ambush feeling spikes cortisol and drives partners away. So the quarantine zone, this weekly planning date, has rigid rules to prevent that.
What are the rules?
First, it must be a dedicated hour. It needs to happen at the exact same time each week. And it has to be treated with the same unshakable commitment as a specialist doctor's appointment.
So you can't just wave a hand and say, oh, we'll figure it out sometime this weekend.
No, absolutely not. The ambiguity is what kills the momentum. It can be every Tuesday night over Thai takeout or Sunday morning with coffee before the world wakes up. The format doesn't matter, but the consistency is non-negotiable.
That makes a lot of sense.
Furthermore, you cannot just show up and stare at each other. You have to bring a shared agenda. You review what got done the previous week, and you assign new, highly specific tasks.
And the distinction between a good task and a bad task is pretty crucial here, right?
Yeah, it makes all the difference. Saying, I will research 3 DJs by Friday, and you will call your uncle to get those missing addresses. That is a solid, actionable plan.
It has clear parameters and a deadline.
Right. But simply saying, we really need to figure out the music is what we call a stress bomb with no pin.
A stress bomb with no pin. I love that.
Yeah, it creates anxiety without offering any actual path to resolution. Figuring out the music isn't a task, it's an entire category of labor. You have to break it down to make it manageable.
And just as important as the planning date is what happens outside of it, right?
Yes, we insist on wedding-free days. These are entire days where absolutely no wedding talk is permitted.
Not even a quick question about a stamp.
Not a single mention. We are incredibly firm that these days are not a luxury. They are an absolute survival mechanism. You have to actively protect your relationship from wedding creep.
Okay, so we have the quarantine zone established. We have our Tuesday night planning date. But when we actually sit down at that table, how do we divide the mountain of tasks?
Right, the actual division of labor.
Because I think the default setting for modern couples is to strive for a perfect 50-50 split. It feels egalitarian. We split the rent. We split the chores. We should split the wedding duties right down the middle.
It sounds incredibly fair in theory, but the truth is the 50-50 myth is a trap.
A trap.
Striving for an exact mathematical split usually creates significantly more friction than it solves because you are forcing people to care about things they genuinely have no interest in.
But if we are splitting it equally, doesn't that open the door to one person just bulldozing the whole event?
How do you mean?
Well, if my partner decides it is their strength to manage the guest list and they go rogue and invite 500 people, suddenly our budget is totally destroyed.
Okay, yes, that is the danger if you don't have guardrails.
Right.
The system we propose is dividing by strength and interest rather than 50-50, but doing so within a very strict framework. We draw a hard line between decisions that must be joint and decisions that can be delegated.
What falls into the mandatory joint bucket?
The big structural pillars of the event. So the budget ceiling, meaning the absolute maximum amount of money you are willing to spend. The guest count framework. Are we aiming for an intimate 50-person gathering or a 300-person gala?
That makes sense.
And the overall vibe or formality of the event. And crucially, anything that directly affects complex family dynamics, those foundational elements require 2 clear yes votes.
Which is completely logical. You don't want to find out on the day of the event that your partner unilaterally decided on a black tie ballroom affair while you were planning for a relaxed backyard barbecue.
Exactly. But once those structural guardrails are set in stone, Almost everything else can be delegated.
Like what?
Vendor research, transportation logistics, specific design choices. The golden rule is simple. Whoever cares more about a decision gets to make it, provided it fits within the agreed-upon budget.
I see.
We have to stop pretending that agonizing over the specific shade of the cocktail napkins matters equally to both people. If one of you genuinely does not care, let the person who does care run with it.
I was amazed by the story of the couple who took this to the absolute extreme.
Oh, the 100-0 split?
Yeah. The bride handled 100% of the aesthetic details, the colors, the floral arrangements, the layout of the room. She loved
You
it.
thrived on it.
And the groom handled 100% of the vendor contracts, the negotiations, and the complex payment schedules. He loved the spreadsheets. It was 0% equal, but it was 100% effective.
Because they both had deep ownership in completely different lanes. It proves that fairness doesn't have to mean perfect symmetry. It means you are both contributing value in a way that aligns with your natural strengths.
That is such a liberating concept. You don't have to force yourself to pretend to care about the font on the menu if you just want to manage the budget tracker.
Exactly.
But this brings us to a slightly terrifying realization.
Uh-oh.
What happens if you do all of this? You implement the quarantine zone, you toss out the 50-50 myth, you divide by strength, and you are still fighting constantly.
Yeah.
Like you are still at each other's throats every single week.
This is where the deep dive takes a much more introspective, serious turn. Because here is a very hard truth. Wedding planning is a magnifying glass.
Meaning it takes whatever is already present in the relationship and blows it up so you can't ignore it.
Yes. Wedding planning rarely creates brand new dysfunction out of thin air. What it does is expose existing dysfunction, and it usually does so at the worst possible time.
I think of it like a structural stress test for a bridge.
Ooh, how so?
Well, before a city opens a new bridge to daily commuter traffic, they drive massive, incredibly heavy trucks over it to see if the concrete cracks. You want to find the structural weaknesses while you are testing it, not when it's full of minivans. Planning a wedding is that heavy truck.
That is a fantastic analogy.
It is the first time many couples are dealing with tens of thousands of dollars, competing family expectations, and massive shifts in their personal identity all at the exact same time.
It really is the ultimate stress test for your communication architecture, and there are specific red flags to watch for during this test.
Like what's normal versus a red flag?
Well, it is totally normal to bicker about the cost of a photographer. That's just logistics. But it is a red flag if you are having constant underlying fights about respect or control.
Oh, yeah.
It is a red flag if communication breaks down entirely over simple disagreements, resulting in stonewalling or shouting. If one partner is consistently feeling dismissed or steamrolled, you need to pay attention.
Because if a partner is comfortably dismissing your concerns about the caterer, they're probably going to dismiss your concerns when you are trying to buy a house or when you are trying to raise a child together.
Exactly. The behavior patterns existed before the save the dates ever went out. The wedding just gave them a stage.
Wow.
We are very blunt in our assessment. If a partner's disengagement isn't just a byproduct of feeling overwhelmed, but is actually paired with contempt, cruelty, or a complete refusal to participate in building your shared future, that is a blaring siren.
In the piece, there's a line that genuinely gave me chills. The wedding will end, the marriage won't.
It is an incredible reality check.
It really is.
And that is exactly why we highly recommend a specific investment that almost never makes it onto a standard wedding spreadsheet.
Which is?
Booking a few sessions with a couples therapist during the engagement.
Not a wedding coordinator to handle the caterer, but a therapist to handle the relationship.
Yes. We call it one of the most underrated investments a couple can make.
I can completely see why.
You are about to make a lifelong legal and emotional commitment. Acquiring the psychological tools to communicate clearly through high-stress situations before you sign, that marriage license is never wasted money. It is proactive maintenance.
Which shifts the entire perspective of the planning process, really. Once you survive the logistics and you navigate the stress tests, it begs a much bigger question.
Yeah.
How do you actually enjoy this period of your life without losing sight of why you were doing it in the first place?
To do that, you have to continuously recenter yourself on the actual finish line. We have a foundational mantra that we tell every single couple at their very first meeting.
The ceremony is the point.
The ceremony is the point. The reception is just the celebration.
I feel like you need that printed out and taped to your mirror when you are drowning in a sea of vendor contracts. The ceremony is the point.
Yes. Internalizing that completely changes how your brain processes stress.
How so?
Well, when you are feeling furious that your partner doesn't care about the floral centerpieces, we suggest stopping and asking yourself a simple time travel question. Will this matter in 5 years?
Right. In 5 years, am I really going to remember what flowers were on table number 4?
Probably not.
Or am I going to remember whether I felt supported, valued, and partnered during a major life transition?
Exactly. We always say you don't need your partner to become a spreadsheet person. You need them to be a partner person.
A partner person. That encapsulates the entire philosophy.
Keeping the long view in focus allows you to communicate from a place of, we are on the same team facing a problem, rather than you are failing at my wedding.
And speaking of remembering that you were on the same team, I loved the strategy one of our couples used to preserve their sanity.
Oh, the non-wedding date.
Yes, they instituted a monthly non-wedding date. It was a strict, zero wedding talk zone.
I love that rule.
If you brought up the guest list, you broke the rule and probably had to buy dessert. It was just the two of them doing something they loved, actively reminding themselves why they wanted to spend their lives together in the first place.
It is so easy to lose sight of the person sitting across from you when they just become another obstacle between you and a finalized seating chart.
Totally.
Taking that time to just be in love again is crucial.
So when we step back and look at this entire roadmap we've laid out today, the takeaways are pretty clear. If you want to survive planning a wedding, first, you have to avoid solo planner syndrome.
Yes. You do that by naming the dynamic out loud, using I statements, to avoid triggering a defensive fight or flight response.
Right. Second, you have to contain the beast. You implement a quarantine zone with a strict, scheduled weekly planning date, and you protect your nervous system with mandatory wedding-free days.
Absolutely essential.
Third, you toss the 50-50 myth completely out the window.
Right. Divide tasks by strength and interest. As long as you both agree on the budget and the big picture vibe, let the person who cares the most make the call.
And finally, you use the inevitable friction of this massive project as practice for the marriage itself, because the ceremony is the point. Everything else is just details.
The truly fascinating thing about this framework, though, is that it stretches far beyond the wedding industry.
It really does.
If we zoom out, we just spent 20 minutes dissecting how wedding planning is a magnifying glass, the ultimate stress test that exposes a couple's true dynamic.
It is genuinely a masterclass in how to manage any high-stakes project with another human being without losing your mind.
Which leaves us with a really compelling thought to ponder for the future.
Oh, what's that?
What would happen if you proactively applied this exact same framework to other massive life transitions?
Oh, wow.
Imagine dividing tasks purely by strength, holding a weekly designated sync, and scheduling mandatory days off when you are trying to buy your first house together.
That would change everything.
Or when you are navigating a major career change, or when you bring a new baby home. Could this exact system be the secret to saving yourself from solo planner syndrome in every other major chapter of your life?
That is an incredible thought to leave on. The recession will end, but the skills you build getting there certainly do not expire.
You've been listening to Planning Your I Do from You Had Me at I Do. Show notes, planning help, and ceremony support are at youhadmeatido.com/podcast. Subscribe so you don't miss the next episode, and send it to a bride friend who needs answers instead of more stress at 2 in the morning. Thanks for listening.